One of the questions we get all the time here at Progress Coaching is, how do I set up a coaching training program to change my culture, to improve our engagement, to develop and retain top talent? Here's the funny thing about training programs. They're only as good as the application. Now, one of the toughest things about coaching is it's a little bit ambiguous, nebulous. It's kind of a gray area. There's really not a right way or a wrong way to do things when it comes from a coaching perspective in terms of implementing coaching. So a lot of times when we go through training, whether it's negotiation skills, handling angry customers, there are concrete things we need to do, and there certainly are with coaching. But the funny thing about coaching, when we really put our cards on the table, it's asking our leaders to a certain extent learn a whole new language. How to ask questions, how to navigate a conversation, how to find out why someone's lacking motivation or lacking a sense of urgency, or why aren't they good teammates. That requires continuous conversation. Now, let's be honest, as leaders, what do we want to do? I just want to tell my people what to do. That way I don't have to worry about it. But if we could tell people to fix their attitudes, become more motivated, become more energetic on the phone, definitely demonstrate a sense of urgency, everything would be better. But if that worked, I probably wouldn't be in business. So there are some key things we need to do to make sure that we're not just delivering a training program. First, you have to have a training program, but our training program must have choices, because I guarantee you managers are going to come up with one objection: I don't have time. What we teach at Progress Coaching is 14 different ways to coach. Number two, you have to have internal sponsors and hopefully internal trainers you can work with inside the organization. So for example, we cannot, as an outside agency, really hold people accountable in terms of their application. There has to be a partnership between the vendor and certainly the organization or the client. Third, this is a big one. Internally, practice must be facilitated. If I told you to give a keynote speech in front of 2,000-3,000 people, which I've done before, and I told you, don't prepare for it, just show up, shoot from the hip, wouldn't you think I'm nuts? Then why do we think so little of practice, which can actually position our leaders to do what? Retain and develop top talent. Now here comes the next big item we encourage you to think about: real-world situational support. So one of the things that managers, and all managers, quite frankly, all employees want to learn, are things that are specific to what they're actually experiencing. So in the last 72 hours, we've had requests from our clients from, I've got 2 people, top talent, can't get rid of them. They don't like each other. They don't work very effectively together. How do I coach them? 2, I've got someone within 5 years of retirement. Can you really coach people like that? Or the one we're really getting lately is, I've got those dreaded millennials. How do you change them? And so all of those require conversation pieces. They require questions. They require different strategies to accelerate the performance and the behavioral change that we're seeking. We have to have support systems that can work with managers, giving them specific and concrete solutions specific to their actual experiences in real world. And last, we have to get upper level management to participate. Now, we typically don't start working with upper level management. We'd love to, but guess what they typically do? They push it down. Well, let's try it in the organization. We'll do a pilot. We'll see what goes on. But there is nothing more powerful than the endorsement of your executive team, but more importantly, an executive team that is actually coaching. So let me give you a great example. Jeff Weiner, the CEO of LinkedIn. Now this company's stock, I think, has tripled. The company's doing phenomenally well financially. They were bought out by Microsoft a few years ago, I think, for $26 billion. And in an interview, somebody asked him, what do you do with your time? And he said, what do you mean? Well, what do you do with your time? What's a typical day? He said, I carve out 40% of my day to be open to coaching opportunities. Think of that. When somebody looks at me and says, Tim, we don't have time to implement your program, we're really busy. Here's a guy running a multi-billion-dollar company who literally spends 40% of his time coaching people. So let me leave you with one fundamental fact. People don't quit organizations, they quit bosses. So when we think about people at the end of the day, they go home and they do what? They get asked by their spouse or their family or significant other, how was your day, honey? And what do we typically say? It was a good day or it was a bad day. Nobody goes home and says, it was neutral. I didn't have a thought from 8 to 5. So what happens is our interactions can impact how people feel. So when we have leaders who are not engaged, not taking time with their people, and then, by the way, they do the end of the year review because it's mandated, guess what happens to trust? It goes right in the toilet. Versus managers who spend 10 to 15 minutes a week scheduling time, asking questions, getting understanding, inspiring, motivating, acknowledging people's strengths, guess what happens? Those are the people that will stay at the organizations. So when you roll out a training program, make sure you have most, if not all of these key elements, as it will allow you to have a successful training program. Thanks.